So for each of these, you'll see the directions say list the x-intercept, y-intercept, and the slope. So we're going to go over how to find all three of those things when we are graphing lines. First of all, from previous courses, you may recognize y equals mx plus b, and I believe we talked about this yesterday, where m is the slope and b gives you the y-intercept. But I said nothing about the x-intercept, so we'll add that in today. So when I look at this, y equals 3/4 x minus 3, what value is the m value? 3/4. So our slope is 3/4. What value is the b value? Okay, so our y-intercept, when we write the actual intercept, we write 0, -3. I know some people were asking me questions about that yesterday. In our notes, you had to write x and y, or in our homework, you had to write x and y intercepts. You always write it with a 0, comma, the number that it hits at. And then we need to find our x-intercept, where I could look at the picture if it were graphed and figure it out, which I haven't graphed it yet. And sometimes it's going to not be at a very nice number, so I won't even be able to look at the picture and figure it out. So I'm going to give you a way that always, always, always works. And you should have kind of reviewed this a little bit in your assignment yesterday. What you're going to do is you're going to plug in 0 for y, and then solve for x. You're going to plug in 0 for y, and we're going to solve for x. I'm going to plug in 0 for y and solve for x. So my equation would look like 0 equals 3/4 x minus 3. I'm going to solve that equation for x. What am I going to do to both sides of the equation? Add 3. So we have 3 equals 3/4 x. Oh gosh, I do not know how to divide by 3/4. So instead of dividing by 3/4, 7. Multiply what? By 4? Sure. Since it's dividing by 4, you can multiply both sides by 4 to cancel that out. We always want to do what's opposite. Hey, that was perfect. So now I have 12 equals 3x. I don't have x by itself yet. So now what should I do? Divide by 3. So when you write your intercept, you write it as an ordered pair. The x-intercept is 4, 0. So now we have 3 pieces of information that we're going to use to graph this. And then we're going to also use our straight edge. So the y-intercept has to go on the y-axis, 0, -3. The x-intercept goes on the x-axis, 4, 0. And from either of those points, or both of those points, you can use your slope. That says rise over run, 3/4. So start on any point and go up 3/4. Put another dot. If I go up 3/4 again, I'm off the graph. So the great thing about slope is instead of +3 over +4, you can change both signs if you want. You could also do -3 over -4, because negative over negative becomes a positive. So I could start here and go down 3, left 4. Down 3, left 4. And you can see we have a pattern. We have a constant pattern here. So then use your straight edge and make your line. Excuse me. All right, the next question is the exact same direction, There's just one little thing that looks a little different on this next question. Does anybody notice anything that looks different on the next question? So the slope is negative this time. And what is this G thing? What's this G thing?
G of x versus y.
Right. Here we have G of x instead of seeing y. But they both represent the exact same thing. They represent the output. So when I plug in an x and I do some stuff to it, I get out the y value. So both of them represent that output. They're just like G of x is a little fancier. We'll talk a lot more about this form as we go through the year. But for now, we just need to think about that as the exact same thing as y. So we're going to find our slope. Can you guys yell at the slope? Negative 2. You can write that as negative 2 over 1, or you can write it as positive 2 over negative 1. Either way is going to help you graph. But the slope is negative 2. I'm just talking about when you graph it. The y-intercept is 0, 1. And we need to find our x-intercept. The x-intercept, you plug in 0 for y, but we don't have a y. We have a g of x. So you just make 0, that entire g of x, that whole side becomes 0, equals negative 2x plus 1. It's the same thing as having a y. This x looks confusing to me. I'm moving it. That was from question 1. There you go. Alright, so we're going to subtract 1. So those cancel out. And then divide by negative 2. It's going to be positive 1/2. So we write 1/2, comma, 0 for our intercept. We go to our graph, and the y-intercept at 0, 1, I can plot that on the y-axis. The x-intercept at 1/2, 0, I can plot it, but that one's not going to be as accurate, because, you know. And then I'm going to use my slope. I'm definitely going to start at the whole number, the integer, to use my slope. Go down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Or we could go up to left, so that I could use it if I want. Or you guys have a straight edge. As soon as you're done, like, sick of making dots, just use your straight edge from there. I usually overachieve and do the dots the whole way, but you really just need minimal 2. How's it going so far? Are we remembering something? Okay, let's go to number 3. Equation is x equals 3. First question. Is this in the form y equals mx plus b?
No, there's no y.
There's no y in the equation. It is not in this form. It cannot be written in this form because there's no y in the equation. This guy is an exception to a lot of the rules. We did talk about these equations yesterday, and we did graph them in our assignment. What kind of graph does this look like? Ooh, you remember the slope? Yeah. So if we have x equals, our slope is undefined. And that means it's going to be what kind of line if it's undefined, meaning no, you can't do it, vertical line. So it's going to be a vertical line. Because it's going to be a vertical line and there's no y in the equation, there's going to be no y-intercept. So here's the question. How do I know that you know that there's no y-intercept?
Because it's undefined.
Yeah, but how do I know as a teacher, other than you telling me and having this conversation right now? Not everybody's having that same conversation with me. So how do I know by looking at your paper when you are supposed to fill out the y-intercept and you leave it blank? How do I know if you leave it blank that you knew that there was no y-intercept? You know what it looks like if you leave something blank to me? You know what it looks like to the teacher if you leave something blank? It looks like you don't know and you skipped it. So if there isn't a y-intercept, how will I know that you know there is no y-intercept? Write something down like none. Here you go. Now I know you know. That was a weird N I just made. Nice. Okay, and then the x-intercept is 3, 0. It passes at 3, but that's going to be an ordered pair of 3, 0. So it's going to be a vertical line that passes through the x at 3. You guys have a straight edge. We can make our vertical line. That one was actually really short. Okay, I want to pause the video and I want you guys to try number 4 to see that you know how to do it without me, or find out where your question is and ask your coach, your mathlete coach. Okay, so number 4, slope is -1/4. Y-intercept, we write as an ordered pair 0, -2. Then the x-intercept you have to solve. So you do 0 equals -1/4 x minus 2. You're going to add your 2. And then we're going to multiply both sides by 4. And if you multiplied by -4 and did all this in one step instead of I'm about to do it in 2 steps, that's totally fine. 8 equals -1x. So at this point now I have to divide by -1 to get x equals -8. We write our x-intercept as -8, 0. And then from there we need to go graph -8, 0. And 0, -2. You can also use your slope, -1/4, -1/4. All of these things should end up on the same line. If your slope is positive and your line is going downhill, you've done something wrong. So you kind of want to make sure everything makes sense together. Okay, so number 5, the slope is 2/3. The y-intercept 0, 4. And the x-intercept I have to solve. 0 equals 2/3 x plus 4. Subtract my 4. Just a reminder, I'm doing all of this so it's on the video. So if you need to go back and watch my video because I'm going super fast, you can watch my video as many times as you want. Like and subscribe. Just kidding. -4 equals 2/3 x. And then here, if you want to cancel out dividing by 3, you have to multiply by 3. That cancels out dividing by 3. So I have -12 equals 2x. If you want to cancel out multiplying by 2, you divide by 2. X equals -6. And we write it as an ordered pair, -6, 0. Some of you are doing this last 2 steps in 1 step, which is totally fine. I'm just baby stepping it. I'm doing it really slow at the beginning of the year. So I'm going to graph my x and my y-intercept, and I'm also going to use my slope up 2/3 just to make sure that this is correct and it looks right to me. And straight edge connect it. Oh my gosh, one more. Last one is just like saying y equals -2, and we did those yesterday. So if y equals -2, that is the y-intercept. 0, -2. X-intercept, where is it? Why is there none? But how do you know that unless I've already graphed it? How do you know that from the equation? That'll never touch the x-axis. Oh, was that you talking? I couldn't hear. Is that you? There's no x in the equation, so there's going to be no x-intercept. No x, so that's how we know that there isn't any. And then slope, if this is not going to cross the x-axis, it has to be a horizontal line. And what is the slope of a horizontal line? 0. And you can write the 0 like a number. I just wrote 0 so everybody knows what I'm saying. So our assignment is exactly just like this bunch of graphs to practice. That's it. Okay? So I'll pass that out, and then you guys, I have posted the answer key this time. I double, triple check. I posted the answer key. Make sure you get on there and correct your work in pen.